When the railways began to spread more than 200 years ago, their impact on architecture was nothing short of revolutionary. To serve these marvellous machines, whole new kinds of buildings sprang up. From the outlandishly ornate,
The things you find on buildings.
to hidden gems
I never thought I'd get to see this.
and railway wonders of the world.
Now, this is what I call extreme train spotting.
Now, with privileged access
We are swinging.
Oh my goodness.
and rarely seen designs,
Oh, this is the famous watercolour.
I want to show you how each and every one of these remarkable structures tells the story of how the railways have changed the way we live
You're standing in the middle of history.
forever. Today, I discover the secrets of Manchester revealed along the expanse of its spectacular viaducts.
I had no idea this was here. I thought the whole thing was demolished. This is extraordinary.
In Reading, we reveal the metamorphosis of a modest Victorian station into a 21st century commuter hub.
I think the legacy won't just be in the architectural spaces and the engineering expression, it'll be in the way that people use the station.
And at the National Railway Museum, I get my hands on the most extraordinary model railway.
Please, 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 can we go and have a go?
Of course you can go and have a go. What do you think you're here for? You're not going to get away with that, have you? Come on.
Climb aboard as I explore the architecture the railways built. Since the advent of steam-powered travel, the railways have witnessed dizzying heights and crushing lows as their popularity moved in and out of favour. Some of the architecture fell into disrepair. Other structures bounced back, given a new purpose and a new life. One place where this can be seen in glorious technicolor is Manchester, one of the largest and most exciting cities in Britain. It's a vibrant cultural hub with a rich history in music, the arts, and sport. But before all this, it was a 19th century industrial powerhouse. With crowded streets, bustling warehouses and towering cotton mills.
Manchester is one of the birthplaces of the Industrial Revolution, so it's no surprise the city is stuffed full of incredible pieces of historic railway architecture.
It tells the story of Manchester past, present and future. And the past starts at ground level. For decades, canals fed the city, bringing raw materials in and goods out. The arrival of the railways then enabled this to be done more quickly. But the canal network stood in their way at ground level. The only option was to go up. Onto magnificent viaducts. This is Castlefield in the southwest of the city. It's the perfect place to understand the impact the railways had on Manchester, because it's where no less than 3 viaducts still dominate the cityscape. Jonathan Schofield, the author of Manchester Then and Now, is a huge fan.
What do you love about these viaducts?
What they are symbols of is, for the last 200 years, dynamism. So it's like a wow moment. You know, when we go and see the Colosseum or something in Rome, or a big castle somewhere, to me, this is just a different version of the wow of those. They are not just monuments, they are living, and that's the essence of them.
From up here, they do look stunning. But down below, where all 3 viaducts converge, the gritty reality of their story can be revealed. The first to be built in 1849 was this low-slung red brick structure. Then, 28 years later, this brick and iron behemoth followed. And finally, this steel-legged monster strode over the top in 1893. And the styles of each have stories to tell.
So up here I can see a Gothic element to that bridge over there. I can see almost medieval styling coming into this bridge up here. It looks like a castle. So what's going on?
One of my favourite bits of this area. I mean, the Victorians effectively built all these 4 railway lines, crushing, destroying forever the Roman remains that had created Manchester. So when they were building these viaducts, they thought that there had been a Roman fort here. So in a very medieval rather than Roman way, they put castle shapes on the piers, not only of the 1870s and 1890s, but even on the 1840s one. And the Gothic look is simply because, often in its public architecture, Manchester chose Gothic. So even within iron bridges, you get beautiful Gothic shapes. It's beautiful.
They've given it that romantic feel, haven't they?
Yes.
This bridge over the canal, first off, and the different springing arches over the different levels. There's a romance to this landscape.
But it wasn't like that underneath it back in the 1840s. There was a massive stinking abattoir. And then you had lots and lots of workshops, iron foundries working around here, and the whole area was defined by dense terraced housing.
The nearby terraced houses survived the building of the 1849 viaduct. But when the Midland Railway decided it needed its own line to London, something had to give.
So already you've got these 2 train tracks at a high level. So of course, a competing railway company has to come at an even higher level, right?
And it's a different station.
Yeah.
It's a completely different railway system. So this is almost reinventing it again. Bang, we're going to have a new line to London, and we're going to cut round through the south of the city, and we're going to be right next to Manchester Town Hall, and we need to get rid of hundreds of terraced houses to do this, literally destroy them.
As they so often are. Again, it's, as we often say, it's the architecture of the railways destroyed.
It was brutal, wasn't it? Railway architecture of that date could dictate the whole future development of the city. 224 arches were built across the city by that. It's said that the surveyor of the arches actually had a nervous breakdown.
You don't blame him.
I know I've seen more railway architecture than most people, but the sense of déjà vu down here is overwhelming. And there's a reason.
Every young band in Manchester has had a photo shoot underneath this bridge for its lovely sense of industrialisation, strength, and a little bit of decay.
It's strangely familiar, the whole scene, actually.
Well, you would have seen it.
And on that note, I should leave behind the album cover chic of this canopy of viaducts, because this is just the start of my Manchester journey. I want to take you along the red brick 1849 viaduct, because just half a mile eastwards, towards the centre of the city, is a stylish station saved from the jaws of demolition.
I love days like today. It's the kind of day when I get to see inside a building I've always wanted to go and have a look at. And this one is a modernist gem.
Manchester-Oxford Road is an extraordinary timber structure, unlike any other station I've seen. It stands on the viaduct itself, and while that's not unusual for smaller Victorian stations, this one is larger than most. And it's been comprehensively rebuilt. I'm going on a special station tour with Elaine Harwood, the architectural historian who helped to save it.
I cannot think of a better person showing a post-war station than you.
Oh, my pleasure, and what a one we are at.
Rebuilt in 1960, this stylish beauty replaced the original station, which dated from 1874. But as Manchester's railways had been built in the sky, this provided quite the challenge for its 20th century reboot.
We are standing on a viaduct from the 19th century that's a little bit creaky. So when they were rebuilding the station, they had to find a solution that was fairly robust, but not heavy because of the weight on the viaduct. So in 1955, the nationalised British Railways introduces a modernisation plan for its stations and electrification programme. It's centred on the line from London to Manchester and Liverpool.
The busiest line.
Absolutely, and each station got a different architect, and the bright young thing appointed here was Max Glendinning from Belfast.
Okay.
And his father was a timber merchant.
Ah, okay, so already he's being swayed in the background. Do tell me about this intriguing route that I haven't seen quite like anywhere else.
That's because there isn't another one in timber. It's a hyperbolic paraboloid.
Okay, what does that mean?
It means it's got that curve at the top and then it dips on a turn so that you can get a series of clerestories.
The clerestory windows are situated high above eye level, allowing the light to flood in and fill the space. This shape of roof was developed in France in the 1930s and would have originally been made from concrete. But Max Glendinning was working with the brilliantly named Timber Research and Development Association, which was experimenting with creating these shapes just from wood.
They looked at the way these things were being done in concrete, knowing that you have to have a timber formwork into which to pour the concrete. So what if you did away with the concrete? You could do something very economically in timber, and it would look beautiful.
And sell more timber.
And sell more timber.
This wasn't quite the perfect solution, it seemed. 30 years after construction, water began to rot the shells, and the building's very existence came under threat.
Now, you are the person who put this forward for listing and got it listed, aren't you?
Well, Historic England produced a series of recommendations, and this was one of the ones that was accepted.
And thank goodness. Soon there was a massive restoration project to refurbish the roof. And inside, I can't wait to see the extraordinary design that would have been lost if demolition had gone ahead.
Well, here we are. Hemlock is the timber, massively varnished, and then up above, soaring roof, 3 consecutive shells, and of course the shells reflect the taper of the platform. Beautiful, isn't it?
I love it. So this is the joy you can have when an architect singularly designs the building, the canopies, the furniture too, and all the fittings. It just feels like it's the whole thing. It's one work of art.
Absolutely.
The vision of architect Max Glendinning is evident throughout the whole station.
So the canopies had to be put forward because of the electrification. But if we stand here, can you see the shells now? The Sydney Opera House was being designed around this time. So on a tiny scale, it's doing a similar kind of thing.
It's such an unusual form for a building roof.
Especially done in timber.
Yeah.
One thing I love about railway architecture is its ability to find the most unconventional ways to survive. Here, the combination of a Victorian viaduct, the 1960s design, and motivated modern custodians has secured the station's future and its place in 21st century Manchester. From vast city viaducts to small village stations, railway architecture comes in all shapes and sizes. But big doesn't always mean better. Sometimes it's the scaled-down structures that hold the most delight, as I'm about to find out. Throughout this series, we've been granted exclusive out-of-hours access to the wondrous National Railway Museum, my idea of heaven. I've come to a dark corner of the North Shed, a working part of the museum, and it's full of hidden treasures the casual passerby might miss. Though it would be pretty hard to overlook this incredible piece of railway history. To find out why this is no ordinary train set, I'm meeting Phil Graham, one of the museum's specialist volunteers.
Hello, Phil.
Tim, welcome.
Thank you very much indeed. I just cannot get over this wonderful thing beside us here. This is beautiful. It's got model train tracks on top of a massive dining room table. But what is this?
Nowadays, we call it an interactive training aid. This was built by the Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway for training their signalling staff and other operating staff.
This is extraordinary and beautiful and just so intricate.
It was built in 1912. It's the oldest model railway in the world that's still in one piece now. And it was in use from January 1913 all the way through till September 1995. It's 82.5 years.
It must have been seen as the kind of the cutting-edge tech of the day.
Indeed it was, and in many ways it still is actually, because we still use this layout from time to time to train present-day signallers. I run voluntary classes and I use this layout to this day.
You're joking? This is still a contemporary tool used for Britain's big railway today?
Absolutely. Semaphore signals, levers, bells, instruments, it's all still there on 10% of Network Rail.
I feel really privileged today because Phil and his fellow volunteers are giving me a private demo of the signalling school in action.
I mean, it's absolutely vast. I've walked down from the end there and I've passed stations, I've passed what look like little lever frames and signal upon signal and trains. This is a complete railway network, isn't it?
It is, yeah. We've got 4 signal boxes on here so the signallers can interact with one another. Signal trains just like they would do in real life. People had to get certificates to prove that they'd done classes before they'd be let loose on the real signal box.
Where was this actually located, this model?
It was at Manchester Victoria Station, which was the headquarters of the Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway. It was up on the first floor above the platform. There'll be an audience of up to 100 people watching while the instructors operated it, and then the selected few will be given a chance to operate it for themselves.
The lecture hall was built in 1909 as part of a stationary development, and the model was specifically designed to fit the dimensions of the room.
That must have been absolutely nerve-wracking to do your signalling in front of 100 of your peers.
But of course it's all perfectly safe, and you learn by your mistakes. And having a mistake on a model is far better than having a mistake in real life.
Absolutely. And it's incredible to think just how many thousands of signallers learnt their craft at this very table. At over 18 metres long, it may not be the largest piece of railway infrastructure I've ever seen, but its size is outweighed by its importance.
Well, you know what I'm going to ask you. It's a model railway. It's got signals on it. Please, 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 can we go and have a go?
Of course you can go and have a go. What do you think you're here for? You're not going to get away with that, have you? Come on.
It's a very small signal box.
But these levers are miniature replicas of the real thing. A real lever will come about up to your waist. And if you tried to force the locking of it, well, you'd give yourself a strangulated double hernia. But you're going to use real-size instruments to signal trains,
right,
and real-size bells.
Now, I've seen a signal box or two in my time, so I think I understand the basics. Signallers, in this case me and Phil's team, use a series of coded rings to tell each other when a train is either approaching or leaving our section of track. That's the theory, anyway.
OK, the first thing that's going to happen is Bruce is going to call your attention with 1 beat on the bell. You respond to that 1 beat on the bell. Essentially, you're saying, yes, I'm listening. Bruce can now pass his message. Right, that was a question. Is the line clear for an express passenger train? All the points have to be set for the safety of the approaching train,
right,
which they all are, but you've got a set of facing points here which have to be locked into position. So that will mean you need to reverse blue lever number 10.
I'm glad you're here.
OK, that's blue lever number 10. So now you're satisfied, the line is clear, so you can agree to the train coming. In railway parlance, we say you're accepting the train. It's an express you've taken. 4 beats on the bell, you repeat. 4 beats.
I've played in signal boxes before, but this suddenly feels very real.
And then, you haven't finished yet, quite. You need to put your block indicator to the line clear position. Rotary block indicator, turn it round to line clear. That's it, okay. So, congratulations. You have just signalled an express passenger train. Well done.
Thank you very much. I have to say, that was terrifying.
It's much more relaxing to stand back and watch the experts do their thing.
Flipping that one back. That is magnificent. I am so impressed that you guys have kept this here. This is genuinely something very beautiful.
Thanks very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll shortly be arriving at Reading Station. Over 16 million journeys a year start or finish at this busy Berkshire transport hub. The station's been wonderfully updated in recent years, and I'm a huge fan of its flowing, ribbon-like canopies that pull the whole structure together. The redevelopment includes a striking new entrance on the station's north side, and architect Declan McCafferty can explain the thinking behind its design.
So the northern entrance uses exactly the same canopy roof as all the other platforms, except it wraps from a lower level over the escalators and up to the roof itself. The thing I really like about it is it creates a real sense of grandeur and scale on this side of the station and makes it obvious for everyone using the station about where they need to go.
Declan set out to create a new experience for passengers at Reading. But he's only the latest in a long line of designers with a vision for this station.
The original Reading station was built by Isambard Kingdom Brunel as part of his Great Western Main Line, which linked London Paddington to Bristol. Almost nothing of that original design remains. His station had a very complex platform arrangement, which meant that all the trains up and down had to cross each other to stop at Reading. That did nothing for capacity.
Later, Victorians remodelled Brunel's station. This building, now a pub, was originally the ticket hall and dates from 1868. The platforms had been rearranged by 1910 and the station looked like this. And it was still recognisably similar in the early 1990s. But the 21st century redevelopment was required for some compelling reasons.
The first one is actually that Reading was the biggest bottleneck on the capacity of the whole Great Western Main Line. So the line that links London Paddington to the southwest of England and to Wales. 50% of the capacity was constrained at Reading, so we needed to build new platforms and new routes through to open up that capacity. The other one is the growth in passenger numbers at Reading. Passenger numbers will grow by 100% by the year 2030, so that was what really drove the need to create a new station.
Plans for a redesigned station capable of handling 30 million passengers a year were approved in 2010. With a budget of almost £900 million, the project looked to be both huge and complex. But the objective was very clear.
So the main brief to us for the station was, how do we increase capacity and how do we improve the environment for passengers and how do we make it more accessible for everyone who needs to use the station?
One way of improving accessibility was to use the building itself to guide passengers as they enter.
So a lot of that was creating space, creating most height and most light where the escalators are, trying to signal to people so that they can move around easily and find their way around, without resorting to the use of signage everywhere. So we're on the transfer deck, which is the space that links every part of Reading Station, spans across all the platforms. 30 metres wide, 135 metres long. What we were looking to achieve was where the platform canopies wrap up and over, you get this blue colour which is consistent, and you raise up the space. You get light in at the side. That signals where people need to move to get to the platforms themselves.
Before reconstruction, the platforms were also connected by these subways. I'm delighted to see the original curved bricks, but hidden beneath the station, these passageways were inevitably gloomy. So, the creation of the bright, new, elevated transfer deck, complete with its futuristic robot cleaners, represented a major change and a major challenge.
There was no way we could close the station during the works. Reading Station is such an important part of the Great Western Main Line, and therefore we had to keep it open the whole way through construction. That was really, really problematic, and it informed the way we approached the architecture and the way we approached the design.
In the case of the transfer deck, some rather creative thinking was applied to its construction and installation.
This deck that we stand on is actually a bridge. It was built to the north of the station in sections and slid across the top of the columns. So that each of the columns had rollers on it to take the bridge. So that was a massive piece of infrastructure engineering in itself. And it meant that this could continue to be built and rolled across the station while passengers were getting their trains underneath. It looked very odd, but it worked perfectly.
Not surprisingly, the sheer scale of the work, which began at Reading in 2011, fascinated observers who closely followed the new station taking shape. Yet this 21st century reimagining was taking place in the shadow of Victorian railway buildings. And Declan and his colleagues took inspiration from their 19th century predecessors in putting their engineering ideas on show. On the platforms, for example.
And from here you can see the V columns which run the whole way across the station. One of our aims with the honest expression of the engineering structures here was to create a link with the Victorian railway heritage and could create a link with the Victorian railway sheds, which used the engineering expression in an honest way. And that's what we wanted to achieve at Reading.
This new station is clearly bursting with ideas and ambition. And given that it was created while trains were running through here all the time, it's incredible this massive project was not only delivered on budget, but, get this, a year ahead of its scheduled completion date in 2015. So it was on the 17th of July 2014 that Elizabeth II stepped off the train from Paddington to open the new Reading Station. Not surprisingly, it's an occasion Network Rail's Callum Mackay vividly remembers.
She arrived at Reading where we had crowds of people outside the front, we had people up on the transfer deck all ready to see her. Then we did a little opening ceremony just on the transfer deck. Then she left and went down to the new side of the station, where again, the whole kind of area was just lined with members of the public who'd come to see her. I think it was a really special day for Reading.
In the years since Reading Station's auspicious opening, its passenger traffic and its royal connections have been enhanced by the arrival of the Elizabeth line. And the station's design features have helped cement its major role in Reading life.
The architecture of the station really supports its role in the community. The station's kind of big, bold. We offer lots of space to local community groups to come in and make use of it, and do everything we can to make it a real community asset.
But surely the last word on the impact of the new Reading Station should go to an architect who helped make it a reality.
I think the legacy of this station won't just be in the architectural spaces and the engineering expression, it'll actually be in the way that people use the station. I think you can genuinely see that people find it an easy station to use, and also that its spaces are welcoming and generous and accessible to everyone.
The new building is simply stunning. A 21st century take on Reading's fascinating station architecture and a welcome addition to its great railway history. I'm in Manchester, the world's first industrial city, tracing its architectural history back along a viaduct built in 1849. Now, as you know, I do love a disused station, and southeast of the city is somewhere which hasn't seen a train for years. In fact, I didn't even realise it still existed. This was Manchester Mayfield, and I'm privileged to be on an exclusive guided tour with Roy Chapman, who worked in this building back in the 1970s and has promised to show me the secrets within.
And here you are, Tim. Welcome to Mayfield Station. So this was the main entrance from the street, of course.
I had no idea this was here. I thought the whole thing had been demolished. This is extraordinary.
Built in 1910, it was an overspill station for London Road, which is now known as Manchester Piccadilly.
This was built for suburban services. So places like Buxton, Crewe, Wilmslow, excursion trains going to South Wales and places like this, it was used for those sort of purposes.
So buildings of this age and have been disused for so long, you lose the detail. But look, we've got these wonderful doors.
They've survived the original sliding doors.
Yeah, so look, we've got the brackets and the rollers down here. And look as well, up here, we've got the corbels supporting this crossbeam, all of which have been beautifully shaped. I mean, this is absolutely lovely.
To connect with Manchester's existing network of elevated lines, the platforms here at Mayfield had to be sky high too.
This is where the main station was, up here.
Good Lord. This is so odd. You do not find railway stations like this anymore. I'm quite blown away by this.
It's wonderful that it's survived like it has. It's in pretty poor condition, but it has survived.
This is a mainline railway terminus that's been always forgotten about in the centre of one of our biggest cities in the UK.
That's right. That's right.
And as a station built as an afterthought, it's had an identity crisis throughout its existence. It was a passenger station for just 50 years before closing in 1960. It's a great example of how railway architecture can be rebranded and rebooted. Because after 10 years of quiet, it was dusted off and repurposed as a parcels depot, which is where Roy worked as a guard.
When you were working here, back in what, 1970s?
Early 70s.
So what was it like when you turned up every evening or day?
There was a carousel up there where the parcels came down the carousel and they were sorted, loaded on the brutes. That's those British Rail Universal trolley equipment. And you'd have trains of brutes going down here. You had to watch yourself walking around here at night because those drivers didn't care really. You know, so you're driving round and you'd just be hanging around until the train was loaded and ready to go.
This time, it only managed 16 short years of operation before the doors shut once more. Rail just couldn't compete with parcels being delivered by road. But the story doesn't end there.
It's supposed to be a haunted station, by the way.
Oh, give over.
Yeah. Well, that was the story. And I must admit, sometimes you walk down here, and it was quite a dark station. You know, that kind of tingle in the back? I don't believe ghost stories and so forth, but sometimes, maybe it's auto-suggestion. You're walking down there dark at night, you get a tingle in the spine and think, oh, is that the ghost? But there are stories of whisperings, of footsteps and slamming doors.
With ghost stories ringing in my ears, Roy is leading me down to the depths of the station, to the cavernous space beneath the platforms.
Roy, this is such a strange space, isn't it?
Dare I ask who used to stalk these hallways?
When this first opened, what would this have actually been used for underneath this?
Storage of freight, storage of whatever was required. The railway would have used it. They would have leased off space in the arches to private storage companies and warehouse companies, of course, who could have made use of it, and they would have used it themselves.
I guess it makes extra money for the railway company.
Exactly.
Right?
You've got all this space underneath. You might as well make use of it.
It's so lovely to see this kind of it exposed and this industrial heritage.
Yes, it's just like a huge industrial dinosaur. The ribs are exposed when you come down here. You can see how it was built.
But this dinosaur is brought to life every weekend as the building adopts a rather more modern purpose.
It's now used for entertainment, pop music, gigs and so forth. It's a very busy place apparently for young people at weekends and things like that.
Well, to think all those people are partying away in this bit of railway architecture, and I thought it had long gone. Well, it is such a privilege to finally get the keys, unlock the door, and show everyone inside this really rather magnificent structure at last.
It is absolutely wonderful. A hidden gem in many ways.
It's marvellous how this building always finds a way to raise itself from the dead and find a new purpose. But it's not the only piece of railway architecture in Manchester to have done so. I'm returning to Castlefield, where my tour began, because here, among the tangle of viaducts, is perhaps a glimpse of how these structures could be used in the future.
Okay, that's quite a bit further than I thought it was going to be. Now, New York might have its High Line, as many of us know, but who knew that Manchester has just got its very own version?
Turning a disused viaduct into a city centre park in the sky is a fantastic way to repurpose railway architecture and breathe life into our polluted cities. Dimpna Gould from the National Trust has been working tirelessly to transform this viaduct into a green High Line in the heart of Manchester. It's still a work in progress, so we're extremely honoured to be amongst the first people to be allowed a close look.
Good Lord. It's quite a space, isn't it?
It's a beauty, isn't it?
This is not the usual National Trust stately home I think of.
Surprised?
Very surprised.
You know, we're founded as a charity to preserve heritage, to bring nature to people's doorsteps. And what better place to really trial a new project like this than a city like Manchester, which really loves its heritage, really loves its nature.
Before its closure in 1969, this 330-metre stretch formed part of the route between the Great Northern Railway's warehouse and Central Station. The plan is for the whole length of the viaduct to become an urban park. But for now, just the first 160 metres have been transformed, which is a lovely 5-minute stroll. Longer, of course, if you stop to smell the flowers, and the planting has been carefully thought out.
I'm not seeing very much green. In fact, this looks like a railway line here because I'm seeing clinker and ballast down here. You've even got a buddleia here, which I think of being as a railway weed.
You're exactly right, but this is deliberate. What we want to show is, as it was, we want to show the past. But we do know that buddleia, a bit like Mancunians, will flourish anywhere, and of course they did on the railway line. So this is a deliberate part where you can reflect back on our wonderful heritage.
The plants cleverly change every few metres to give the impression of travelling on a train, passing the flora and fauna of the countryside at great speed.
So we've deliberately chosen planting that you would find by a railway line just to create that moment before we come into the area, which is full of gorgeous plants.
But it really has inspired the planting you've gone after, because it is quite evocative of both railways and also, you see, from the steam, from the smoke and the chimneys, it's brilliant, wonderful. What are the challenges of building a garden, frankly, about what, 6 stories up?
Huge challenges. Our gardeners have now just gone for a lie down. They have not left this site. We've got sleeping bags for them. They've worked amazingly.
With half of the Sky Park still to get a makeover, the Trust has just opened this section to the public. And so very different from when the viaducts first went up, they want to know what the public thinks.
This is a 1-year pilot project, and we're listening, we're talking to people all over the city and Greater Manchester. We can't do it on our own. but we will listen and see what comes next.
What are the reactions of people over this last couple of days you've been open? What's it been like?
So there are some words that you wouldn't have put together before this project, and national trust and cool might be one of them. People feel they're making history again here, and just palpable excitement. And you'll hear trams passing, you'll hear trains, but everyone turns into railway children up here, starts waving frantically at commuters.
And that's just been opening just 2 or 3 days.
Yes.
So this is
Yes.
So people.
We're day 3 today, Tim.
Day
so you're
3.
really special. You're making history too.
Oh.
Day 3.
Now, I don't know about you, but I've never stopped being a railway child. And of course, I'm always up for making a bit of railway history, and perhaps even more thrilling, being part of railway future.
What I love about Manchester's historic railway architecture is that this city has shown that with a bit of thought and care, even the most unloved bits can be given an entirely new lease of life.